have today's expert panel, including Mohammed Rushdie from Reem Bank. Welcome, Mohammed.
Welcome, thank you.
We have Shahab Uddin from Etihad International Investment. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We have Stephen Fernandez from Planview.
Hi.
And we have Miles Bowker from BMC Helix. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today, gentlemen.
Sure.
So just to kick us off, if each one of you could share your perspectives on where are you actually seeing the value that AI brings into the financial industry? If you can kick us off, Mohammed.
Thank you for, first of all, for inviting us to talk about this. I think the talk of the hour or the time or whatever, I think. And I think AI in financial services and AI in industry in general it's a buzzword and it's a trend and it's everything today. Most of the CIOs, CEOs, everybody's talking about. And I think there is, I would say, we used to be lots of pilots, lots of trials and so on happening last few years. And I think now we are moving into seeing AI in action. And I think few studies happened last, maybe a few months or last year, which shows that some organization were able to really to get an excellent return in their investment from an AI, but from a true AI ones. Not everything is AI. It's very important to know where AI can help you and support you. And I believe that the value is coming, or being realized by many organizations. And I think now AI become part of the DNA of organization. It's not like before, like it was something like accessory or something important to have. But I think everybody realized the value of AI, especially after the LLM models, which has been everybody's using in their own day-to-day. And you could see the value bringing to their people, persons, and so on. Bringing this to the organization become very important. And I think banking, and I could see there are lots of banks, we are one of them as well. So we're a new bank working in many of these as of now, because we can see there is a big value coming from it. The value, of course, from industry to industry, from a study to another one, there is a value. I think double digits at least. You're going to see the value which is AI bringing to the ecosystem.
Shahab, is this your perspective as well?
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, like Mama said, I believe it's very narrow when it comes to the actual value reached to the institutes. I personally observed in the last couple of years when it comes to, for example, automation of compliance, that brings certain value by AI. That is the most important element I saw even in our institutes as well. We have used AI to automate multi-compliance decisions that, okay, this particular thing is regulated by some authority and how it can be governed with the help of AI. So with that said, I can see also this is just narrow value, not a very wide spectrum of AI coming to the institutes. And I would say, why I would say narrow, because most of the things I can see it's more on productivity optimization by AI. I don't see the decisions element, decision value coming into the picture by AI so far. So I would rather say but yeah, however, it is a narrow spectrum of the AI optimization, but it is still, I think, a huge pile of value which brings to the institutes, financial institutes, when it comes to, for example, compliance, regulations, automation. For example, also, let's say the sales credit decisions, for example, right? That helps a lot of time. I think that many AI tools are helping us to make the credit decisions very fast. That was not before. So this could be my, I think, observation I can add to the team. So I think more and more people focus on element of decisions, how AI can help us to decide. Coming into the other aspect of human into the loop. I was discussing with Miles the same topic just before the session. So yeah, that could be, I think, big win for all of us.
I need to comment. It's very important to have this kind of really, thoughts.
Sure.
And I think you mentioned human in the loop because, I feel sometimes people think human in the loop is something bad. Not bad at all, by the way. which means, at the end of the day, like even the central bank here, we have some kind of regulation, human oversight in some important decision has to be there. So it doesn't mean that if there is human in the loop that we are not having the AI in the right way. No, we have an AI which can help us to make 10x better, performance, because human in the loop for some cases has to be there.
Yeah.
So I agree, to my colleague, credit decisioning is very important. I could see some reports, it make 100 plus or 80-90%, better, decisions sometimes for some segment of customers, which they might not have all the data or their data there, like, maybe blue collar, some other people and so on. So credit decisioning is very important. Customer communication is another thing. Fraud and risk management. These three areas really had a big, influence or I can say result from an AI. I think the move happening now to move from back office optimization to customer experience and products and so on. And I think this is what I could see it happening nowadays from banking point of view.
Thank you so much for that. And Stephen and Miles, are you seeing the same trends in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with with both of y'all. But there are two aspects to it, right? So one aspect to it is when you look at AI, where it's adding value. On one side, you've got operational AI. So what that means is a bank is doing exceptionally well, or banks in the region, they're doing exceptionally well on risk management, on anti-money laundering, on credit scoring and so on, right? From the operational side, 10 out of 10. That's the engine. What is really missing and where value can be added is on the portfolio intelligence. So what that really means is that a bank would run multiple portfolios. Under those portfolios, there'll be programs and projects. How much of information do they have? How much of insights do they have in real time about those resources, about those capacities? Are they being allocated to the right projects and so on? And are those projects being profitable? Are those projects aligned to the strategy of the bank and to the board? So I think that's where we see from the regional perspective, there's a lot of scope of really jump-starting that. Because end of the day, when the portfolio intelligence is in place, it feeds back into the operational AI, which is the execution engine. So that would be my view of it.
And Miles?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you touch on the data and the volume, because I think that's where we see the value. So I definitely think there is value in AI, and it is around places where we have large volumes of data. And from a banking perspective, that would be things like transactions, where you're trying to do fraud management, exactly like you say. So that's an obvious use case. You raised a good point that that ultimate decision still needs to be made by people, and I think the central bank's been quite specific on that the ultimate responsibility lies with human decision. But the volume of data is just too much for a person to be able to actually ingest and make clear and rational decisions. That's for certainly what we're seeing. So from fraud management, we see a lot of uptake from the financial sector. Another area is for us as BMC Helix is in IT operations, where there's a massive amount of data, and how it is that our customers are able to use AI to do predictions around resiliency, around breakages, around root cause analysis and that sort of thing, to be able to offer a better customer experience, which I think is the other area where AI is making a big value proposition, is around IT operations and customer service management.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I just wanted to talk on this topic. So basically, when you think about the financial industry, a big factor is obviously risk. There are risks when it comes to dealing with people within the organization, risk with adopting new technologies. So do you think AI has helped alleviate leaders' worries about these risks? Have they become more cautious, or have they become a bit more comfortable taking on risk now with the help of AI? If you can start, Shah.
So I would say the both elements, a little bit of both. They are trying some courage to use the AI for the management of the risk. However, I said I can see that the most challenging perspective is the risk which we didn't see before, like 5 years ago. Like for example, now we hear about everyday model poisoning, right? Prompt injections, right? We haven't heard about these, I think, attack vectors, correct? So I think the biggest element, like I might say, the data, like most of the models we are processing like huge data, right? And I'm giving a prompt to a AI model. For example, come up and show me my last month sales and future forecast. It's a huge data set. It is working on it, and when it returns me some insights, some reports, and if I trust it, right, and I just right away send it to my board, I mean that is a huge risk. I mean we don't think in that way. We don't think the AI can make problems and can be biased, can give me some wrong information. So I think that particular perspective is a risk part. We have to take care of it, and we have to consider, as I said earlier, that okay, we have to review it. At Etihad, for example, I tell my team, okay, and gents, yes, you have all the liberty to use the AI model to make your decisions. However, review it, specifically when it comes to the finance. Specifically when it comes to the, you can say, revealing your reports on public forums, so external communication. So we always take care of this as element and that perspective, and that's how it helps us out to reduce the fatigue of lot of over data reviewing and analyzing that part. However, at the same time, it helps us that okay, we know what we are publishing, we know what helps us to drive further. So yeah, I think little bit both of these elements are jiggling around, and there are, like for example, there are many incidents. If you in 2025, I was seeing the data in a similar forum. We saw it that 2025 first half of the year, deep fake losses reaches to $450 million, right? And then who doesn't know about this Hong Kong, the video conferencing fraud, right? That was $25 on one single video call. Somebody impersonated someone, and they executed it. They authorized the $25 million fraud. So keeping these things, that how it is easy to hire a technology such as AI to like say deepfake engine. It is as cheap as, I would say, somebody can hire it at $5. So that is something, the risk we are talking about here, that how cheap it is to deepfake somebody, or even like we said, authorization perspective, how easy it is. Even a child, I was talking to Mile again because we had a good time prior to the session. So even a child can, I think, hire it at $5 and can take the, that wrong road. So coming to the decision factor, yeah, we have to make sure that we don't just wait for the AI to give us the final decision. We have to work with it. We have to analyze it. We have to ask the team to be lead on it and not just be passive person on it. You should have to have a taxonomy of decisions. That's I would like to push further.
Mohammed, I can see you're nodding.
Yeah, it's interesting, because this, this part is very important and very close to my heart, because I done some work with Being Arab Monetary Fund FinTech Work Group. I'm part of the group of the FinTech, member of the FinTech Work Group, and I worked like 2-3 years back about AI in the Arab world and so on. A paper, it's not published, but there was some information about this kind of risks and so on. And I think when you put a model, from my point of view, the most important thing here, which is still we don't know who will be responsible for, is accountability. Any model you put, at the end of the day, someone has to be accountable to what will happen, what is the result of the model. That's why here, when we said human in the loop, human oversight, it's not bad at all. But the other problem we're having as well is the privacy. coming from banking, all the data, customer data and so on, you cannot just take the customer data to Claude or ChatGPT. So that's why we're talking now about localizing these models or alike, something similar, to the internal networks and infrastructures. It's super sovereign, AI. And I think you're going to hear about the sovereign AI a lot. And last 1 month at different meetings with different providers and big companies here. How can we bring this in and we're able to control? Because outside this, lots of risks, honestly. We're discussing as well the use of this normal ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, others, from our employees or colleagues, where they're gonna expose the data of us. So all of this really is a big risk. So the risk here is bringing the organization, information outside, or the biggest one, who's a big problem, is the customer information. So we have to make sure really that this type of risks are really managed within the AI, framework. At the same time, we need to allow people to use AI, because you cannot put the boundaries and nobody's using because you wanna safeguard yourself, and then you become, obsolete. I remember when we were discussing security a long time back, and we said if you wanna be secure, nobody could tap into your system, your core banking, everything, put it in the basement, lock it, nobody will be able to see. But at the same time, with the era of AI and technology, we have to find ways really. There is, lots of interesting guidelines, the AI Act, European, we have something in EU also, the central bank is putting some guidelines. We have it all. We have to make sure that we are bringing this to our organization. And as well, we have to make sure that the use of AI are well, manage it in a way, but at the same time managing the risks of customers and also organizations. So I think this is like something which is really being developed. We are not yet there, but I think every organization is trying to also to put some kind of a governance framework. But the risks, as my colleague said as well, it is big. The more you are getting AI to do great things for us, the more in the other bad guys you're doing the same. Deep fake and other things is happening. So you have to make sure you are managing, this kind of, you are balancing between both, and you are able to move forward. And you have to take some risks as well. You cannot just be risk-free.
Okay. And then from what they have said, what are the biggest risks that, most of your customers are facing, and how are you, how are you enabling them to address those kind of risks, especially in this very, very critical sector?
I think great question and great perspective. Thank you for sharing that. So when you look at it broadly, there are two things, right? So one is you've got agents, and agents and the question is who's accountable for what the agent does? Who's accountable for what authority he has, and what boundary has been set on him, and what approval and hierarchy does he have in terms of ownership and accountability. So that's one part of it. And like Mr. Rushdi said, humans in the loop are here to stay. Whether we like it or not, they're here to stay. So the question then arises is how can they coexist? And the question is they have to coexist, right? So the question is how. So what we have recently done in the last 3 months is we have launched something called as agent resource management. So what that does is basically it takes your agents, agentic AI agents, right? Defines all the boundaries around it, defines the roles and the capacity and what it can do and what it cannot do. And if it exceeds that boundary, it escalates to the human who's responsible for what the agentic AI is responsible to do as a task. So therefore, in real time, you can get to manage your agentic AI agents. You can get to manage your humans who are responsible for that agent and the outcome of that, and then manage the cost, the capacity, if they need additional resources, and whatever they are doing, is it in line with the overall strategy of the organization? So this is what what we are taking to most of our clients as a solution.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
I think when it comes to risks, the risks haven't really fundamentally changed. The risks that banking faces now are the risks that banking has faced. It's a risk-based business, right? I mean, that's what banking is.
Yeah.
It's that's effectively what they do. So banks are just really are using technology to help them in managing the risks that they've always managed. The challenge that we have is that, exactly as we've all said, criminal elements out there is also using new technologies. Right? So it's not a case of do the banks think that they should be using? They have to. They have to shift. To go back to your previous question, where are they being aggressive or are they being passive? I think that depends on their businesses. It depends on where the reward outweighs the risk. Okay. So as we've already said, fraud would be a natural one that they would definitely focus on, and they would be more aggressive on that to other areas of the business where the reward might not be as significant for the business. Right? I think when it comes to the risks that we're seeing is where customers are putting frameworks in place to be able to take this forward. And I don't mean that customers aren't doing that. I mean that it's more a case of how they're going about doing it. From my perspective, you need to break it down into a couple of steps, and I agree with you 100%. The first one is to be able to identify what AI you're using. When I say what AI you're using, what models, what vendors do you have that are offering, what agents are out there, what are the use cases, all that. You need to be able to identify all of those. And then once you've identified it, you then need to decide how you're going to govern that, right? And then once you've determined how you're going to govern all of those things, then you need to start monitoring it. And you need to say, and not just monitoring from an auditability and a governance point of view, but monitoring from an infrastructure point of view. Because we're building these systems into core decision systems within finance. So we can't afford for them to go down for 20 minutes because they are making key decisions for the business. And then once we've done that, then we need to be able to say, okay, so now how do we prove that we're still making the right decisions? How do we prove when an auditor comes in and says to you, why did this happen? You can't say, well, because AI said it was a good idea, so we decided that that was the way to go. You need to be able to prove how did the AI make that decision? What data did it reference to make that decision, and all of that sort of thing. So I think at the moment, the challenge that customers are having is in defining that kind of framework around how do we identify, how do we govern, how do we monitor, and how do we then prove it at the end of all of that.
I think that's very important, even the term called explainability in AI. So I think this will, people wants to know why the model take the decision. You cannot say, okay, AI took the decision. AI is a set of, it's an algorithm, it was built by humans or people and so on. So tell me why we reached to this one. Explainability become a very important thing here. So I think that's why we're trying to get educated, all of us, even industry and everybody, about the real use of AI and how can we make it safe, which is, I think it's very important. People always see, okay, banking a little bit slow and so on. And I used to say, there are two things in life you have to be careful about: health and wealth.
That's true.
You cannot just accept any doctor or anybody to take a decision to make an operation or whatever, or give you a medicine. You always something serious. You have to make sure it's okay. And when it comes to money, nobody accepts to his money to be lost somewhere. People said, okay, I need to have the convenience of banking. Fine, if are you ready to take the risk as well? If you have no problem at all, like people, they go with digital assets and others. Sometimes, it's a high risk, high return. So when it comes to money with regulated entities, we have to take care of people, wealth, and money. So that's why we have to make sure that each and every algorithm we're putting are being tested properly. We have all the precautions we can take and so on. So that's why like as I said, managing or being between both sides is very important when it comes to a technology which is disruptive like AI.
I think very central to all this is data, of course, without
Definitely.
without clean, reliable data.
And this is the problem which is most organizations face nowadays, because nothing wrong, but I used to tell people, even when it comes to omnichannel, and I said, sometimes people say, why you don't have an omnichannel, all the system together? I said, previously when the banking came, it was a bank, a branch, and after that we get ATMs, and after that we get call center, and then after that we get it wasn't not a mobile banking, it was web banking, whatever. And then after mobile banking, so all of this was coming really, in different stages. And when it become all together, I said, oh, hey, can we get this all to, a layer? So things take time. And that's why, at a time, then you start, refining or putting the right framework or architecture for what you done over years. The same for banking. Data, core banking, you have different systems and so on. and then the data quality might not be the same, and so on, because it will not in mind that you need to get each and every customer, connection or what he has done, because you're going to use it for an algorithm to see the customer insights and what he wants for the next product. So all of this is important, and I think the data cleansing, data quality, data governance, also all of this is I would say it's a foundation of AI. There is no AI, machine learning or deep learning, which is it's only data. If you don't have data, the algorithm will do nothing.
So then, how can finance and technology leaders ensure that the data they have is trusted? Like, what processes or strategies should they put in place to ensure this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's when you look at data, right? It's a big subject, but just to decode it, you have operational data, the data that comes in from your ERP systems and all your operational systems that are there, which is normally so-called as a structured data, right? And then you have unstructured data that comes in from all other sources. Now, banks obviously focus more on the operational data because they focus less on the unstructured data. But that said, as we see more and more, there's a convergence of both the data getting together. The question then arises that how do you maintain a single source of truth, say from your core banking system, from your ERP systems, from your, let's say, your retail and wealth management investment systems, getting all of them to do that, right? The challenge which we are seeing is that banks, even till date, have some of the data in silos. And is it right or wrong? There's no right or wrong answers for that, because that's the nature of the beast, right? A wealth management head of the wealth management would not like to share information with this retail management. Why? Because the stakes are high over here, right? So I think as we progressively see, there has to be some amount of commonality of data that comes up, clean data that comes up. And like Rushdie said, this data has to be continuously be fed. When this data is fed continuously, the AI layer that sits on top is going to take the data, train itself, and again retrain itself. And it's an ongoing process. It cannot start overnight, right? And it's sooner than later that companies have to have the data in place.
And Miles, your thoughts on this?
I think that the challenge that we have is that a lot of businesses have data for the sake of having data. That there's just loads and loads and loads of data. I think about from a personal point of view. My daughter was going through some photos that we took recently when we were on a holiday, and we've got 20 photos that all look the same, right? So it's a case of, which photo do we want to keep? And I think that's a bit of a strange analogy maybe, but it's the same kind of thing that we have in business. The data might exist in lots of different places, and I think that the biggest challenge is identifying which is the golden source of that information, which is the trusted source, let me rather say. Because that metric might exist in multiple places, it might be the same, it might be different. But I think the challenge comes in trying to find out which one is, and that's different across different companies. But where do they identify as being the golden source? Because if you don't trust the data, you're not going to trust the AI. And that goes back to what you were saying just now, right? Like, if you're asking more and more and more, when I'm asking a question of an AI, of ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is, and I'm asking a question, I get a response, more and more I'm questioning, hang on, let me check whether that's actually, how did you come up with that answer? And that's because I perhaps don't trust the source. And that's something that businesses can't afford to do. They need to be able to trust the source. So it comes down to choosing which they believe is the correct record.
Just to give an example, when you look at NatWest, one of the largest banks earlier, Royal Bank of Scotland, right? So they used their portfolio data as a golden source. And by doing so, they managed to reduce their preparedness for a program from 12 weeks to under 2 weeks. That's huge saving for a bank.
And earlier, the word accountability was mentioned, and that's very important, especially in this industry. So where does accountability actually sit when it comes to AI in the financial industry? Is it with the technology team? Is it with the...
that's why I'm saying this, like, I take the liberty to answer this.
Sure.
Till date, this is difficult to give it to someone. That's why in a decision, because you build an algorithm, and the algorithm will be built by different people. You have to make sure that bias is not there. So you have to bring people from different demographics. There is too many things about biases as well. And then the algorithm will give a decision. That's why we say human in the loop is very important, especially when it comes to maybe a certain a certain area for decision, maybe smaller one or something is not really impacting big time, you might make it okay, and then the bank or whatever the department can be responsible. But at the same time, human in the loop is very important today. So that's my point.
Just to add to what Rushdie said is, when you look at accountability, I mean, who's responsible for it, right? So I'll just take a step back. You look at an agent. Today, each one has got Gen AI, agentic agent, and so on, right? As we progress forward, these agents become smarter, and there would be a day very soon where you'll have a super agent managing agents under them, and those agents managing sub-agents under them, right? So the accountability question would get larger. So the question is, who's responsible for it?
Yes.
Right? It is not an AI problem. Accountability is not an AI problem. So the problem is a problem of a governance architectural problem. Right? AI cannot do anything about accountability. It is doing whatever it's been told to do and whatever it has, the data it's got access to. The issue comes in, how do you govern these agents, sub-agents and agents and the super agents that are there on top, right? And the only way to do it is by defining the boundaries for each of these agents that are there. And the moment it deviates from the boundaries, like Rushdie said, humans in the loop have to come in, take a corrective course of action. If that action is not taken, the impact is huge. So what that means is having real-time access into all the resources that this agent is responsible for, all the resources that the human is responsible for collectively, what engagements or portfolios that they are managing, what is the cost involved in it, what is the impact involved in it, what is the capacity, are they going down a dead path, is that engagement that the agent managing a right engagement strategically or no. So all this gets managed when you have governance, managed in real time with both agents and your resources together.
Great.
Yeah.
And then,
I was just going to, I love that example. And I think that from what we're seeing, another good example would be when I started in IT, when there was a major outage, you called everybody into a room, vendors, employees, everyone, and you called everybody into the room. There was a guy there from networks, there was a guy from applications, there was a guy, and you had all these people, and the whole focus was, we need to work out what the root cause is. Okay. So those are obviously very expensive, they take time. Most people spend most of the time trying to prove that it's not them, rather than actually trying to work out where the problem is. And that now can absolutely be done by AI. AI can absolutely say, based on all the information, because again, it goes back to all the data, based on the massive volume of data that we have, the most likely cause is this. But it still requires a human in the loop to say, yeah, you know what, actually, that's what you've put together over there, that makes sense. As opposed to, well, okay, the system says it's right, so let's just take an automated action. Can it take an automated action? Yes. Do we want a human in the loop? Yeah, probably for the time being, yeah. Probably.
And just to add to that, you can have traceability matrix, which does, when you run an audit trail, you can go back and see why did the agent say do this, and what prompted it to do this. So the agent is not responsible.
of course.
At the end of the day,
It's true.
and the ownership lies with us as humans to manage those agents.
Have your thoughts?
So when it comes to, I think, governance perspective of agents, I would say that when the agent receives a command, get the data from my ERP, then my payment gateway, and then it reaches to the customer care, it gets the data from customer care system. So now it has what? 3 multiple data sets. Okay, first governance was happening from ERP, we have ERP username, password, credentials. Then we have payment gateway access system, then so on and so forth. But the moment data reaches to this agent, the AI, where is the now control, where is the governance? All these data is mixed up, and now I have, as an agent, I have all these things with me, governance is lost. Correct. So my perspective is very simple. I think there should be a system that should be fast enough. There should be governance system that should be fast enough to govern the AI. If we don't have that speed, light speed of system, you cannot govern the AI. So we have to think in that way. I mean, bring up a system that should be 100% governing the AI agents, that the way the light speed and it should govern it. Otherwise, we are in trouble. We don't know what's going to happen, because we cannot, like gentleman said, that we cannot make AI agent accountable if we don't put the governance system. However, where it doesn't work, people usually we have, let's say, governance or platform or anything sitting in my SharePoint folder or on my table, and I'm not applying it, or I am applying on a small scale and assuming, yeah, this is gonna go scale up to any big project, big stake. It won't happen. You have to take a system that can govern with the light speed of your AI agents, and that will be helping you out to make the data in your control. Otherwise, you're lost.
And then from from the perspective of technology providers, like where do you come in terms of helping them with governing this and controlling these systems?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Miles,
No, go for it, go.
no, absolutely. I think now I was going to jump in when you said about governing, and that's where organizations like PlanView, we help organizations build a governance structure, and we've been doing this for the last 35 years with several banks, like with Royal Bank of Scotland, with NatWest, and several banks globally as well as in the region. Now, the most important thing is, I think, when you talk about governance, is to the end objective is to make sure that this governance is in alignment with the board strategy. The board decides the strategy for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Whatever governance that comes out of it will be, the strategy will have programs, initiatives, and so on. And then each of these will have a lot of execution plans to achieve these programs, initiatives, and the strategy. This execution should have very clear defined roles and responsibilities. And then that's how you build up your overall governance structure at a high level, at the organization level. This then gets translated into work being done by an agent, work being done by a human, work being done by both of them. And I think and to do this, you need to have access to the resources, be it an AI agent or a human. You need to have access into the dependencies, real-time dependencies that are there. You need to have access into the complete portfolio, cross-portfolio access, not just in silos. Because today we see a lot of organizations, especially in the banking sector, they operate in silos, and they do it for a reason, right? They do it for quick up and running agile developments, low code, no code, or it could be a slightly larger, long process. Maybe the engineering team building something in the back end, right? So this doesn't work. It all cannot operate in silos. When the governance structure comes in place, everything needs to be completely under one roof, orchestrated under as one organization. And I think that's where we play a role in helping a lot of our customers. I think just to add, I think governance is not in silos. Governance is based on the outcome. Governing the outcome of what the bank wants, which is in alignment with achieving the strategy of the bank. I think that's where the crux of the matter lies. Right? So governance is a overall encompassing perspective that is very important to take.
In the financial industry as well, there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of pressure when it comes to compliance and regulations. But then a lot of organizations are also under pressure to innovate faster and adopt AI faster. So I guess I wanted to know, are compliance and data sovereignty requirements, are they driving how financial institutions are designing their AI systems and their AI strategies, or is it more of the other way around? Are compliance requirements being more reactive to how fast the technology or AI is moving?
No, I think each and every organization, I think central banks and regulators in the region, they are very proactive. We had maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years back, there was no fintech, data, AI, nothing was there. I think all of this happened last 6, 7, 8 years. And now we have all of this in place. Central bank also have the AI governance. We ask each and every organization here licensed to have their own AI governance framework. It's already mandated. So I would say, most of the banking and LFI, they have to comply with this, but it's not rigid, I would say. They have to be fair as well. It's not rigid, frameworks or requirements. It's just to make sure that all the aspects, that the outcome in favor of the organization and the customer as well. So, but this is there already, but you cannot push, it doesn't go the other way around from innovators and fintechs and banks, which they can push to the boundaries. No, it's not, because this has been there for a while. Maybe I would say 10 years back, where there is, nobody talk about AI and fintechs and so on. Lots of things happen before even regulators, put something. But as of today, no, it's the other way. I think here, other GCC countries, they have the privacy laws are there. We have BDPL here for all the whole government. It's not only for banking. We have IAR, some other things for financial services. We have now the AI, frameworks and governance framework required by banks. All of these are really in place. But I have to say, at the same time, is not limiting people to innovate, but it's giving people to innovate with some kind of controls, which can govern the organization itself as a bank or RFI, and the customer as well. So I think we are in this. The only thing now we need, sometime we'll go back to regulators as well. I said, hey, we have these issues, through our compliance teams and so on. And I think they listen. And I think, let me tell you, like recent also something happened with AWS and, whatever cloud vendors. And then we are able to move outside the country because the central bank gave us on the spot, 24 hours, we are able to move out. Though from a compliance point of view, you should be on the country only. But when there is something happen, we're able to move. But for AI, I think the governance framework is there and everybody has to put it, but it doesn't limit us from innovating and using AI.
So, with all due respect, I have a little bit different observation. It is more on like a proactive approach. Reactive approach. I would say, like Rushdie said, it's a proactive, but based on the recent studies, I can see that the train is already left. The AI, everybody is using it. My son, he is 12 years old. He is already Gemini user. Sorry, I'm not selling Gemini, but that model helps him to study. However, do we have a regulation that helps a minor to track, our parents to track the AI model utilization? How we can so that's why there are many institutes. We have many regulations within the UAE. I'm saying that, for example, if I come to the DIFC, yes, they have their own regulations. And then we go to Abu Dhabi, ADGM, have their own regulations. Then we go to central bank, there are regulations. So yes, there are times that there are many regulations are overlapping. Correct. And then there are some people like me, I'm sitting on the end user side. So I'm the institute who are actually regulated by that company, that authorities, right? So sometimes there are aspects that, okay, these many regulations could slow down the productivity, right? And that is how we have to come into the approach which gives me a balance of not reducing the efficiency, however, to give the regulatory also the rights, support to the regulatory that, okay, we are governed by you, we are adhering your policies and procedures. However, my take is that it is a bit slow when it comes to such governance, and we have to. It is when it comes to particularly to AI perspective. I'm talking about data governance, sovereignty. Yeah, that's all there. But when it comes to the AI perspective, my take is yes, we are a bit slow.
It's just interesting hearing you say that banks are sometimes perceived as being slow, because I think that banks push technology really at the limit. To say that there are other industries that might be further ahead, well, yeah, if they're running it in pilot phases in little mini projects, yes, but when it comes to actually driving business, I think banks have always pushed technology. When it comes to governance, I agree there's governance, risk and compliance, and certainly from what we're seeing, the questions that we're getting from our customers and the information that they're asking us to share around our technology is maturing very fast. It's not where it was 6 months ago. We're in the fortunate position where are able to say, yes, we do that, yes, we do that. But the quality and the depth of the questions are definitely being stepped up. And I think that also goes around what I was saying earlier on, that it's very expensive to do it retrospectively. And I think that the banks in particular, being such a controlled business, are aware of the fact that if they get the controls in place early on, the innovation within those controls is much faster and much easier. So they are focused on getting the controls right. And I think that now we're going to see that how they then start using those controls to accelerate advances in what it is that their capabilities are. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, gentlemen. Before we head towards closing our wonderful session this morning, we have a few questions from our socials. How has so that's the question from our audience. How have you know capex versus opex?
No, see, like I think it's interesting to question as well. Most of the solutions today is OPEX, not CAPEX. Like it's all cloud-based. It's all, OPEX. So there is quite, to be fair, also we have to be very clear about it. Because I am one of the old users of, or whatever, like I've been in the on-prem and data centers and moved to cloud. While moved to cloud and all the systems was promising to be cheaper, it's not. But you have lots of convenience, new things come fast, and you're able to move, you have to scale, you have to go fast to the market. So there are lots of great things happening, which might not be direct. You can see it, but you can see it over the long run. Most of banks and us, like some people are already, they get some use cases, and use cases really, it gets the OPEX and CAPEX, it got a good percentage of saving because of number of people do the job or people you are bringing to somewhere else. But I have to say as well, it's still we are in an early stage to give a definite answer. But from what I see, yes, it will bring some value. Most likely might be in the OPEX, not the CAPEX. Because now I think everything in technology become OPEX more than CAPEX. I don't see CAPEX much nowadays.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I think yes, it was more on OPEX side. I will, sorry again.
That's okay.
I have different observation.
I'm happy that we have two
different observation because with we are talking about here today AI. So my focus is towards that element only. So considering the amount of the compute AI agents would use, right? So we are considering already to have something like GPUs in-house data center. That because let's say my development team already working and training the models, right, sir? So and I am hiring a GPU on cloud from AWS or Azure or whatnot. So would be not a wise decision for my organization. We are not a bank. I am a conglomerate. I'm an investment company. By the way, just for the sake of everybody. So we are a conglomerate company. So we focus on long-term goals. And considering the requirement of our investment, our entities, our team is considering that why not, even we recently visited the China with the Huawei, so to cope up with the Huawei team to see that how we can have on-prem recent technology on GPUs. So that will be definitely suffice because we have a lot of real estate, fortunately. Okay, and we have also a lot of support from the Abu Dhabi government when it comes to energy savings and energy consumptions. That's a huge win for us, and that helps because we have our one of the biggest vertical is manufacturing of Etihad Investment. So we have a lot of support from Abu Dhabi government, so that helps us to save energy. So we are thinking to have on-prem GPU scaling that to train our own models, to leverage our own assets, and there is no limit for our team to trial and error and develop the progress. So this is how I can see that one use case of in-house OPEX coming back to the picture.
Yeah, I think this also brings something quick because we didn't discuss in the panel, but I would say for anyone watching us, it's super important, the architecture of the AI stack itself. We're talking about, the infrastructure, the models, either outside or the proprietary ones which you're going to have, and then orchestration layers in application and algorithm. So I think we have a new architecture now, which is, this is the discussion we're saying now here. It's very important to start looking at it because it's a bit different from the normal architecture of the normal compute. There's lots of work happening here. Will you be stuck with one, providers? Will you gonna get different GPUs from different, providers as well? There is too many things about the architecture, which is, I'm very happy you mentioned this because I've been working in this last 2 weeks with different people discussing how the architecture will look like. Because this is another very important thing for CTOs and CIOs when they're going into AI. Because this could give them a great, privilege, or they can get stuck as well with big costs. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And then for Stephen and Miles, so what do you think should, CIOs and CFOs in the financial industry should be focusing on when it comes to their AI strategies and AI investments? If you can start.
Sure. I think the most important thing, at least in my opinion, is really having your portfolio intelligence. It's good to run 50 AI projects, or 200 AI projects, but if you have no clue how these projects are performing, what impact does it have, is it contributing to the strategy of the organization? So it's important to have, I would say, portfolio intelligence over just doing AI for the sake of AI. So that's one. Two, it's very important to start governing your agents now or yesterday. Do not wait to govern your agents later, because agents, they train and they retrain and they retrain, and sooner than later they'll become super agents managing sub agents. So I think it's important to start early, start looking at how do you manage them. When I mean manage them, how do you govern them? What's your roles, responsibilities, what's your obligations, what's the boundaries that you need to define, and where does it get escalated? And I think, and third, and the most important thing, and at least in my opinion, is for banks to take the initiative. Don't hold back. Start small, but fail fast, but start small and get going. Don't wait into an analysis paralysis mode.
Miles?
I think it goes back to what I said a little earlier on. I think for success, you need to, firstly, as you say, understand the architecture, get that knowledge. And I was glad to hear you say it, not just around that's necessarily the technology, but the vendors and what the vendors are offering and how they're offering it. It's the knowledge that you need is actually quite deep. And once you have that knowledge, how do you govern it? How do you make sure that the governance risks and controls are managed from a business perspective? And then once you have that, how do you monitor it? How do you make sure that it's working as it's supposed to? That and again, from an infrastructure point of view, or an application point of view, or an output, all of that needs to be monitored continuously, so that ultimately you can prove that it's doing what you wanted it to do, because that's why you have it. That's why you made the investment. So I think that goes back to that for me anyway. So yeah.
Thank you so much for all your time today, gentlemen.